Welcome to Witch Hunt, where we uncover the truths behind some of history's most compelling events. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
And I'm Sarah Jack. Today, we have a special episode that takes us back to one of the darkest chapters in American history, the Salem witch trials. But this time, we're exploring what happened after the trials ended.
Today's guest, Tom Phillips, a renowned TV producer with a deep passion for historical storytelling. Tom has been working on an exciting new project called Salem Aftermath for his production company, G Street Productions. Salem Aftermath looks into the strained relationships after the Salem witch hunt and the psychological impacts on those who lived through it.
Tom's extensive research and collaboration with leading scholars brings a unique perspective to this often overlooked period. The screenplay has won numerous awards and generated buzz.
We also touch on the ongoing efforts to exonerate the remaining accused witches and the importance of historical justice in today's world. This is an episode you won't want to miss.
So let's dive into our conversation with Tom Phillips. Well, we're so excited to get to talk about this important project that you're making around the history.
I did a show for Nat Geo with the scholars I'm working with now and Smithsonian Channel, but we did a film for Annie Harris, with Essex Heritage Foundation in Salem. And she's been showing that, I think, for 12 years. So she actually started this. She called us up and said, we want to do something new. And I'm like, okay. So we were on a Zoom call. And it turns out she's been taking a survey, a poll from her viewers. So all the people would go in and watch our movie. He'd be asking, what do you want to see next? Now, what makes that interesting is Salem, I think, has 1 million viewers in October alone, right? And I think you had 1,200,000 record attendance this year from all over the world, all walks of life. So she went and she asked these people, what do you want to see? Well, if you're a Hollywood or you're a network and you're going to make an investment in a project, it's nice to know there's a market. Now, everyone knows Salem is a hot topic, especially around Halloween. But now we know, and I never would have suspected they want to see what happened after it, hence Aftermath.
Your new screenplay is called Salem Aftermath. Can you tell us just a little synopsis of what it is?
Basically, again, when Annie came forward with this information, the scholars and I had a Zoom call, and they presented me with all the known information about these characters. Now, we're talking about Professor Ted Baker, Salem University, Professor Benjamin Ray, and historian Marilyn Roach. Now, they're all published. They've all been studying this for decades. So you bring the three of them together, they're experts on different characters. Like Ben would be Samuel Paris. Marilyn would be all the women, Elizabeth Proctor, Ann Putnam, and Tad, everyone else. I mean, so when you bring them all, you have pretty much everything you need. But I'm looking at all this stuff and I'm thinking, can we really bring them back to life? So I met a doctor through the History Channel back in 2008, Dr. Hogan Shiro. He's basically an expert on human behavior. And I said, Hogan, here's the challenge. I have all this information. Is there really a way to rebuild historical characters? And I can read you what he wrote, actually. Quote Hogan, while there is variation in individual behavior, human actions often follow predictable patterns based on their age, sex, marriage status, parental status, standing in the community, and other factors. So basically, he goes on to describe this, and what he's telling us is human behavior is very predictable. If somebody slaps you in the face, there's two ways you're going to respond. If somebody kills your mother, your father, or your children, it's basically one way you respond. So it almost comes down to common sense. So when I looked at it, all of a sudden it made sense. And I started writing it. And the first scene I wrote, it was terrible. A few weeks, it didn't work, come back. And all of a sudden it fell into place. And if you can start something off with a bang over the audience head and engage them right away, you have a place to go. And after that, I kept writing. I had 70 pages in 4 days. And then I'm looking at it, I'm going, okay, should I send it to the scholars? Because, Hollywood and scholars don't get along, and my job is to entertain as well. And it was very entertaining. So I thought it was very good. So I'm thinking they won't like it. So I sent it to Maryland first, and I'm waiting to get beat up, The email was 5 pages long, changed that. She likes it. Minor changes. One they made right away. So I'm like, okay, Tad Baker's going to beat me up. So I sent a Tad, and I know Tad a long time too. He liked it. So I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be Ben. Ben's going to bash me over the head. But no, Benjamin Ray also approved of it. And I'm thinking, this is really strange because it's not boring. You would think, okay, no offense to scholars, but their job is to educate. But this story is so bizarre, so compelling, with so many surprising plot twists, leading to an ending that nobody will foresee.
What characters are we going to get to learn from in this story?
Oh, characters. I almost think of the classic film 12 Angry Men. It has such strong characters. This story, and I mean, kind of keep in mind, the story has never been told. These people have never been addressed. So we've taken the latest science methods, almost like a police forensic profiling, to build a suspect. But in our case, unlike detectives, we had a lot of information pulled together. There were very little missing pieces. But the characters, I mean, Ann Putnam, she's always been portrayed wrong. I mean, they all have. But she is an interesting character, a very strong female lead. I mean, look what happened to her. She's 12 years old. She points a finger and people die. And what really shocked me, and I asked Tad again last night, parents took their children to the executions. So, and the other thing, we applied a couple of things to make it different. I did a lot of work with Vietnam veterans, and I learned about PTSD. And I immediately said on our Zoom call to the scholar, I said, wait a minute, Dan's definitely got PTSD. Would anyone argue that? And Hogan agreed. I don't think any psychologist would argue it. And most of the characters are suffering from some kind of trauma. I mean, how could they not be? So, Anne, her father, Thomas Putnam, I mean, he's always been portrayed as a character. I mean, we do know he altered handwriting documents in court. We know he did that. But did he do it to intentional kill people? Was that his intention? It's such a bizarre story, and these people are not black and white. They contain elements of both good and bad. And Elizabeth Proctor, she's declared a witch, and she's no longer considered a citizen. She's not even alive to the court system, loses her home, her money, not allowed to own anything. And she is in a world ruled by men where there's no equality. She decides she's going to fight. What she pulls off and what she does, talking about a strong woman, she's going to be one of the first women to fight a male-dominated society with a positive outcome. I mean, Samuel Nurse, your relative, interesting character. He's never been portrayed correctly either. So, yeah, it's an interesting collection of people.
What format are you looking to take with this?
When I wrote the screenplay, and I wasn't trying to write a screenplay, I was just trying to see if it would work. And I'm thinking a screenplay for a feature. No, I think this would be better for a series because these characters need time to develop. And when I say time, it's not like you're sitting there and you have time to get popcorn. Every minute of this, because of the way they're intertwined, it's so dramatic and they change. So you have characters that start being one way, but by the end of the series, they're not the same people they started out as. They actually grow into this, which is really cool. For example, Reverend Gray, he shows up in the same one when he comes into Salem, as you know, to save the day, meets with John Hale. It reminds me almost of a Clint Eastwood movie, spaghetti western. Clint comes in with his gun, and we kind of know where it's going. But not with Gray. Gray comes in with his Bible, but that doesn't work here. It's made very clear to him that this town is torn. You better come up with something new, Bub. And he does. And with him, you see it early on. And then he grows. And by the end of the film, the series, he does something that you won't see coming. He just totally saves the day, but in a way that it's not the normal reality. He just manipulates things so well. But so what do we need? And actors to come forward. I mean, everything in Hollywood, TV, who's in it? So the way to speed this up we can get someone to come forward. And I'm an artist. Actors are obviously artists. I think you don't usually get a chance to do something for the first time. There's remakes, there's sequels. You know, this is the first time these people will be presented in a realistic way. And if I'm an actor, I would be compelled to come forward and at least look at that role. But I think for the actors, it's a chance to give a voice to the dead, to bring historical figures back to life based on real science and real research. So they're going to have a shot at it. So we need them to come forward. Tituba was actually the most difficult person to rebuild because we lost all track of her after the trial. So I can mention one scene I told you about it. So, being human, history is important, but you always wonder what would happen if Alexander the Great sat down with Napoleon. This is just the way I think anyway. A lot of people ask questions. So she disappears, but I wanted to bring her back. And the only way to bring her back is through a dream. Now, we know Anne had nightmares and dreams. And as Hogan said, you can't control your dreams. So she probably got nightly visits from all these people. And my question was to Hogan and the three scholars, if you were Tituba, we were Anne, and you did meet in a dream, not knowing you're dreaming, what would Anne say to her? What would Tituba say to her? What would that be like? It would be pretty intense because Anne is now 32 years old. And how long has Tituba been gone? For maybe, 20 some years, correct? Mm-hmm. And I think she might have married, but I guess might have had a kid, but it seems like that's not been confirmed by old scholars. But yeah, so scenes like that, people want to see. The scholars may not agree with some of these, but it's funny. You can't say it didn't happen.
Can you tell us again how people can get in touch with your agency to get involved in this project?
Elijah, he put Rising Suns Agency. Maybe I think I sent you the email. Maybe you can post his contact info. He's fine with that. I talked to him last night. Yeah. He will be taking you to a network in June. I can't say who it is, but he's got a lot of connections, and it's timely because we wouldn't start production all into the spring of next year. I mean, it's possible they might want to start sooner the time of what you're doing to have it done for next Halloween. It's possible. I mean, I worked on shows with less time, so we could do it. And I don't think it's going to be pulled together. I mean, I wrote a screenplay, a script and a screenplay. The screenplay has all the shots in it. So any competent director could pick up and work from this. And we have episode 1. I have to do bullets for the next 5 episodes. We're looking at a 6-part series, hour long, but we could rush it. I mean, I've been rushed before.
And earlier you mentioned in investigative series.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah. So, and again, I mentioned to my agent, there's 2 approaches here. We have a scripted series where you have actors, so they're doing their lines, which would be great. We need to do that to bring it to life. People find that more exciting. But the investigative series look at the science behind how we created and brought these people back to life. So it would be Sarah and Putnam descendant working with the scholars and Dr. Hogan Giroux. It could be a one show. It could be a couple shows, but it would play in well with the scripted series because you could watch the scripted and then after, let's show you how we did this. And the fact it's being led by 2 mortal enemy families, I think the audience will find that compelling. I don't think we should hold our punches here. I think we should let it all out. Let these people have their day and let them be seen for what they did and the consequences they all paid for their actions.
Yeah.
There's no winners here.
No.
If you were hung, you lost your life. The people who walked away, they would die young. Putnam family all died young. They all paid the price. So to see why they died young and what they went through, that's what really I find compelling. I want to tell their story. I want to tell their story.
Thank you for listening to this special episode of Witch Hunts. Have a great today and a beautiful tomorrow.